Welcome into the Men Are Forged podcast. I'm your host, Cartwright Morris. The Men Are Forged podcast, we're about forging men into high-performing leaders. We do that through story. What you'll hear on this podcast is men's life, how they became leaders for the service and the benefit of others. If that's something that you're interested in finding more about, go to menareforged.com and you can actually sign up for your free coaching session today with me to discover more about how you can become a high-performing leader. So go to menareforged.com. Now, today's episode. All right, welcome into the Men Are Forged podcast. Exciting guest today, coming all the way from Las Vegas. He's an author. He's a podcast host. He's doing a lot of things today, but you can find about his website at euroquest.com, where he's helping solopreneurs and small business owners. But Daniel Blue, welcome into the podcast. It's great to have you.
Hey, Cartwright. Thank you so much for having me here today.
So, Daniel, I'm curious if anybody who follows you on social media knows this, but you've been on a journey really since January of last year of just physical health. And it's been fun just to kind of see a little bit. I mean, obviously, I jumped in kind of late to the journey, but yeah, I'd love some of your insights of how you've gone after your own personal health and wellness.
Yeah, I've always been someone that took a liking to sports. So, being able to run and, compete, I think that's why I'm in business today. I didn't grow up with money, didn't grow up with a family that came from entrepreneurship or didn't graduate college, right? So, it kind of took a different path towards entrepreneurship, but I believe sports played a factor in all of that. And when you start having a family and getting married and kids and starting a business, it's really easy to have your fitness go to the wayside. And that's what happened to me. And I truly believe that a lot of what we do in the gym, running, the exercise portion is more mental, right? It's doing the things that you say you're going to do and following through with it, right? Keeping your promises. That's a great way to build self-worth and build mental strength. So really just started focusing on that last year and have had a lot of fun in the journey. And I truly believe that it's going to show up in different areas of your life, right? If you're showing up in your fitness, in the gym, your diet, those habits, that discipline is going to show up with your family, with your business, with your finances. So it does help in other areas as well.
Yeah, I mean, I really look forward to kind of hearing more of your story, but just on that note, so many of my audience members, it's like they are like, they've got the full list. They're, like you said, business, family. How did you prioritize? I imagine you already had a full schedule. How did you start prioritizing your health, your fitness? Like, I mean, you were, I noticed you were a big runner. I mean, that cuts out a big part of your day. It was when you're running 15, 20 miles. So yeah, how did you start squeezing on your schedule? What did you have to cut out? What did you have to prioritize to make that happen?
Yeah. And I'm just going to give a little context here. This is not me being a peacock and showboating. I just want to give some facts and then help people see kind of what's behind making it happen. But you're right. It does take a lot of time, right? So I'm doing ultra marathons, right? So I'm running 30, 35, 40 miles and then I'm in the gym too, lifting heavy, right? So I'm, deadlifting 4 plates, that scene. So there's a lot that goes into it. I've got a few other friends that do ultra runs with me and we just laugh that it's just a full-time job, right? The stretching, the yoga, the icing, the supplements, right? Just all that kind of stuff. So it really just comes down to being just super, super intentional with your time, right? If I have a big run coming up, I know I'm going to wake up at 3 a.m., 4 a.m. I live in Las Vegas. It's really hot. I'm not trying to run at noon at 2, right? So, just getting up really early and just really making good use of my time, right? When I drive to the gym, I'm about a 20-minute drive from my gym. I'll have a podcast. I'll have a book, right? So I'm kind of doing 2 things at once. And then just making sure that I have my time with my family, right? My daughter's 13 years old, so it's not like I have a newborn. So I got to get on her calendar, right? She's got business meetings with her friends and, FaceTime conversations with her homies. So I got to get on her calendar and make sure we do that, right? We'll play volleyball together or we'll go grab dinner. And then, I got to do the same thing with my wife, right? So, just really making sure that, again, I'm showing up in the different areas, and then business as well, obviously pouring into the company and into the team. So there's a really good saying or philosophy that I heard Ed Mylett talked about, and some of your audience may have heard of Ed Mylett. And for those who haven't, he's just a really high performer, 8-figure earner, just crushes it in business. And he's pretty healthy as well. He breaks his day up in 3 days. So 24 hours isn't a day, what most of us look at as. And he shared his philosophy from 6 a.m. to noon. He looks at that as one day. Right? Like, how can he get the most out of that one day from 6 a.m. to noon? That's day one. Day two is from noon to 6 p.m. That's day two. How can he get the most out of day two? Day three is from 6 o'clock to midnight. That's day three for him. Now, I don't quite follow that because I'm in bed at like 9:30, right? 10 o'clock, because I'm getting up pretty early the next day. But the concept is still there, right? It's taking your day and breaking it up, because chances are you're probably not going to be in front of your computer for 12 hours at a time, 14 hours at a time, right? So, how can you still get a lot done and be productive with your time? We all have the same amount of time to work with. Just some people choose to use the time better than others.
Yeah. Just valuing your time when you have it. That's really good. So I'm curious, just kind of jump back into your story. You mentioned you didn't grow up with business minded or entrepreneurial home. So what was, if you would, what took you, what was that beginning place for you to really get into entrepreneurship and get into business, start thinking a different way?
Yeah, I got into sales at 18 years old. At 18, I was pretty lost. I dropped out of college, got addicted to drugs, got addicted to Oxycontin. And for those who don't know, it's just a pill in the form, essentially it's heroin in the form of a pill. And I also had a daughter at that time. And during all this chaos, I found some success in sales. I was in the real estate sales space, did pretty well for myself. And at that time is how I learned about the self-directed retirement account space. And we'll get into that a little bit more. But basically, the self-directed retirement account world allows you to take your IRA, allows you to take your 401k and access it penalty and tax-free, and use that money to maybe fund your business. Or in this case, what I heard a lot of people do is invest in real estate. So I heard about people using their 401k and IRAs to flip a house, to buy a rental property. And I thought, how are they doing that? I didn't think that was possible. I thought, this is back in 2008, 2009. I thought retirement accounts were just for stocks, were just for mutual funds. Yeah. So this whole world was uncovered for me at that time. So I knew that was something I wanted to get into at some point in time. I continued in my sales career, continued to get better at management and sales and just in the corporate world, right? And I ended up making the shift, and I got out of the sales real estate arena and I jumped into the self-directed arena back in about 2014. And I worked for a company for a number of years, was blessed to get a lot of wisdom from a lot of people and be surrounded by a lot of very, very smart people, and put a lot of work in myself and just learning the game, learning the craft out there. And 4 years ago, I thought, I've got the network, I've got the relationships, I've got the skill set, I've got some capital. Let's go all in. Let's start a business and see what this works, see what this looks like. And I've always had the mentality of, especially in the very beginning, if it doesn't work, I can just go back to being an employee, right? I know what that looks like, but I burned the boats. That's not on my mind. That's not what I want to do. So 4 years ago, we started this, and here we are 4 years later. We've got about 1,000 customers in all 50 states. Wow. And helped a lot of people over the years, and we've been having fun.
Man. Yeah, seems like it. Back up a little bit. Yeah. How did you get over your addiction? What was the turning point? What was the catalyst for your change to get past your addiction and really lead you to who you are today?
Yeah. So I think when someone has to overcome addiction, whether it's pills or, alcohol, food, whatever that is, I think there is an event that has to happen, and the emotion that you tie to that event, the meaning that you tie to that event, and what emotions come from it. So there's two parts, right? It's the event. And then once that event happens, what kind of emotion do I attach to it? And for me is when I had my daughter. And when I had my daughter, I still didn't get clean. Unfortunately, I was still using when she was born.
Mm-hmm.
But there was a time where she was 6 months old. This was in November of 2009. So I'm coming up on 13 years, and it was Thanksgiving. And I remember my mom was making some Thanksgiving turkey, and my 6-month-old daughter was at my house, and I made the choice to just leave the house. And I told my mom, "Hey, I'm gonna go grab a Red Bull. I'll be right back." And that actually was a lie. I was trying to score. I was trying to get some pills at that time. Mm. And as you might guess, on Thanksgiving Day, none of the drug dealers were answering their phone. They were having mashed potatoes and turkey and stuffing, right? So here I am scrambling. I'm calling everyone to try and score, and no one's picking up the phone. And I ran out of pills that day. So I just knew that at that time that it was rock bottom, that I was going to start withdrawing. It was going to be really, really bad. For those who don't know, when you are essentially going through withdrawals from heroin, from pills, from Oxycontin, from Xanax, you start going with withdrawals. Like you literally feel like you have the flu. You get the chills, the body aches, start throwing up. It's bad. So I knew that was coming. And I just remember being in my car before I went into my house. And I just remember being in my car. I turned off the keys of the ignition. And I just remember looking down and just really just thinking about my life. And I'm thinking, man, I've got a 6-month-old daughter. I'm a piece of shit. And I'm sorry if I can't cuss. I already did.
No, you're good.
But I just was like really in my feels, in my thoughts. And my daughter, 6 months old, she doesn't know her dad's a piece of crap. She doesn't know that he's a selfish, just human being that's not bringing value to this world. Like, is that who I want my daughter to see? Because here soon she's going to be 2. She's going to be 5. She's going to be 10 years old, and she's going to know who I am. Right now, she doesn't. So I just made the choice at that moment to get clean and actually stay clean. Because prior to that, I tried to get clean probably 5-6 times, and it never worked. I always relapsed. So I thought, you know what? Let me move. Let me get out of the city. Let me be in a different environment. And that's a lesson to maybe some of you. If you're in a funk, if you're in a place where you're just not getting ahead, sometimes you have to make a drastic change. And I'm a firm believer, if you can change your environment, it's a quick way to really change things up and get different results. So I went from being in a small town in Utah to living in Las Vegas, and I knew nobody. And I knew 1 or 2 people because of work purposes, but I didn't have the same temptations. I didn't have people I knew, people I ran into. And that allowed me to get clean and stay clean. So it's pretty ironic that I moved to Las Vegas, Sin City, to get clean from drugs. But it was a move that worked well for me.
Yeah. So it sounds like, a lot of your story is just building that resilience. So some of the insights that you've learned, that you've taken from your personal story into your business and what you share with your clients, to even your personal health. What are some of those lessons that you've learned from really starting and growing your own business that you now share with some of your clients?
I would say it's really easy to run away from the challenges, the situations that don't make you feel the best. Maybe it's that one conversation that you really are dreading. It's taking a look at your bank accounts, your finances, and you really don't want to see. It's the bad stuff, right? It's the bad news. Like, no one wants to deal with that. No one wants to address it. However, that's where the growth and the opportunity to see results come into play, because if you can focus on those types of situations, and it allows you to correct the ship. And you're going to have a lot of those in the very beginning. I mean, we still deal with challenges 4 years into it, right? So it's really easy to just kind of be in denial and I'll get to it later. I'll get to it later. But what's one thing right now that's holding you back from growing your business, right? What are the 2 things that are holding you back from really scaling, from hiring more people, from getting more leads, from getting more sales, from having a better culture, right? Like there's probably 1, 2, 3, maybe 5 things. And out of those 5 things that are holding you back, 1 or 2 of them, like, it's true, it's actually fact, but you maybe don't want to admit it because you made a mistake, you played a part in it. And that's part of business, is just being vulnerable and being self-aware of where you're at and taking ownership, because it all falls on you. If something's broken, it needs to get fixed. It's your fault.
Today's episode is brought to you by Thrive Marriage Lab. If you want your marriage to thrive, this is a great opportunity to you, because strong marriages are the bedrock of strong churches, organization, families, and community. This is a 12-month pathway for any of you that are looking to really
have weekly engagement with experienced marriage counselors, not just one, but many. So go to restory.life/thrive to get on the waiting list for this great program that starts in April. That's restory.life/thrive. And make sure you put the word Forge in the promo code to receive a discount on your monthly fee. Now, back to the episode.
Yeah. So you've mentioned that before of just, I've heard other content of you just building a quality culture. Did you ever think 10 years ago that you'd be leading a team and creating a healthy work culture for people to step into?
I'm not surprised.
Yeah.
And I say that because when I played sports, I was never the best player on the team. I was usually the captain though. And one of my philosophies in sports was, how can I play on the field where I bring so much value to the team that the coach can't take me out?
Yeah.
Like when the coach needs to make a substitution, he's just not going to take Daniel out because of ABC. Might not be the best, but what I bring to the table, he's just not going to take me out. Mm-hmm. And I did the same thing when I was an employee, right? Like, how can I be in a position where I'm helping the company, I'm helping my teammates, where they can't do anything but just promote me, just help me grow with the company, right? Not let me go if there's layoffs, right? So that's just really been my mentality. And because I've been the captain on so many different teams, I kind of learned how to deal with conflict and how to deal with stress and different personalities and people maybe, kind of going at it and fighting.
Yeah.
That's business. That's family. We've all had those squabbles, right? So how can we get past all of that and, just really fight for each other and have trust and good communication, to get the mission done.
Man, that's great. What sports did you grow up playing?
I played soccer and basketball.
Soccer and basketball. Okay. And, I would love to hear just the uniqueness of your business, Daniel. I mean, I know you've, a lot of stuff that you promote on your website is so fascinating to me is some of the CPAs and some of the other financial advisors aren't promoting. So for my audience, I would love just to know, how did you find this unique product of penalty-free, tax-free, IRAs and 401ks and how'd you find that? And then, what does that look like for, the average business owner?
Yeah. So I found that out back in 2008, 2009, like I mentioned, where being in the real estate space, hearing people use their retirement accounts in different ways. So what I'm going to explain has been around for decades. It's nothing new. It's not some marketing term that just, we made up on the fly. Basically, think about it. There's trillions of dollars that people have tied up, locked away, and they don't think they can access that money. And it's money in your 401k, money in your IRA. And you've been conditioned to think that you can't access this money until you're old and retired. And you can only use that money for the stock market. That's not true. There's ways for you to access your retirement money, your 401k, your IRA money, penalty and tax-free now, and use that money to do things like maybe fund your business, pay off high interest rate credit card debt, maybe invest into real estate. So I'll give you an example. We had a client of ours that came from corporate. She's getting tired of the 9 to 5, the rat race. She wanted to start an online business. She needed about $20,000 to fund her business. She needed $20,000 for product and inventory. She didn't want to borrow money from the banks. She didn't want to use money in her savings. She had money in a retirement account. And she thought, what if I could use some of that money and use those funds to build the business and invest in myself? So we helped her take that retirement account of hers, get it converted into a different type of retirement account. It's called a solo 401k. And then from there, she took out $20,000 penalty and tax free. And she used that money to fund her business. Yeah. And I was just seeing my team. We actually just talked to her this last week, helped her out with a few things. She's been a customer of ours now for almost 4 years. And she's crushing it. I remember last year talking to her. She sold a bunch of Top Ramen during COVID, crushed it. And so she just sells different items on Amazon, on the internet, and she's been doing really well. She's able to quit her job, and she does full-time online business from home, right? And using her retirement account helped her do that. So the strategies that we teach people, like I said, they've been around for decades. They're IRS approved. You just haven't heard about it because Wall Street doesn't make money the way I just explained it, right? If you're going to use your retirement account to fund your business or invest into an apartment complex or flip a house, it'll make money off of that.
Yeah. So, it's fascinating because I think you're hitting on a point that most people are wanting to get to, that more margin in their life, more freedom. And but a lot of that sounds like there's an education piece. I mean, that's a lot of what your website is. It's like Quest Education.
Yeah. And we can cover this at the end too, but I think your audience would get more value if they went to my personal website. It's danielblue.me. The website you gave earlier, the yourquest.com, that's my firm's website, my company's website. Quest Education is a company that I own. That's the company that has, over 1,000 customers in all 50 states. But if you go to danielblue.me, that has a ton of free information. I write a lot for Forbes. There's a lot of Forbes articles that goes over some of the things I've talked about. I wrote a book called Blueprint to Your Best Retirement. So you can check that out. It teaches you how to access your retirement accounts penalty and tax free. So yeah, you're right. There is education behind it. But our ideal customer is someone that is maybe 30, 40, 50, 60 years old that has a family that's busy with their business or busy with their corporate career, likes to travel, likes to have fun. They don't have hours and hours and hours to just spend on YouTube and figuring this out. Right. So we get on the phone with them and over a series of phone calls, understand their situation, really teach them how all this works, the ins and the outs, and see if it's a good fit. What I've talked about, the solo 401k and the self-directed retirement account space, it's just a tool in the tool belt. It might be that tool to help you get from point A to point B. Unfortunately, most people don't know about it, so they never know if it's a tool that is even useful for them.
Yeah. So just a reminder to my audience, danielblue.me, check that out. Daniel, so you end up writing a book. So give us a little of that journey and what are some of the key points that you highlight in your book?
Yeah. So number one, how to access your retirement account, penalty and tax free, exactly step-by-step how to do that. Number two, the solo 401k. It's one of the best retirement accounts out there. A ton of the wealthy entrepreneurs utilize that account. So it teaches you how that account works. And then I go into how to make money tax-free, right? Tax-free is as good as it can be, right? No matter what business you're in, no matter where you're at in your life, tax-free money, it doesn't get any better than that. And there's some legitimate ways to do that, using a solo 401k. So I wrote the book in a manner with the intention of keeping it nice and simple, right? I've read a lot of financial books. I know you guys probably have too. And a lot of them can be boring, 300 pages, using a bunch of words that you got to Google or you don't even know what they are, right? And you just lose interest. Maybe you read 100 pages and you're like, yeah, I'll get to it later. And then you never do. My book is just short. It's to the point, easy to understand, and packed with just tactful information. So that when you get done reading it, you can take the one or two or three of your favorite points that apply to you, take action, move forward, and get some results.
Yeah, that's great. So Daniel, give me who is your maybe what are the big pain points for a lot of your ideal clients? What are some of the things you're solving?
Yeah, I mean, we just got off the phone with someone here today, and I'm going to use maybe something that's just maybe a little bit more dramatic than typical, but I'm just going to use it because it's real life. Just got off a conference call with him and some of his financial members of his team. But he had 1.4 million in his 401k. He's an engineer. He's 60 years old, getting ready to retire this year, and he lost 20% of his account this year. And that hit him in the feels because he was hoping to get to 2 million, right? And losing 20% on 1.5 million, right? That's 300K just gone, right? So stock market is acting crazy right now. So, people that aren't in love with the stock market, maybe they don't feel like their financial advisor or their account is just really doing the best. That's number one, right? And then number two, if they like the idea of accessing that money penalty and tax free to do something different, maybe like funding their business or, investing in an alternative asset like real estate or precious metals. Like there's just so many different ways you can use a solo 401k to invest and grow your money. And a solo 401k, hence the name solo. You mentioned it earlier. It's a solopreneur. So someone that has a side hustle, a business owner that doesn't have any W-2 employees. You could be a 9-to-5 employee. You could be working right now for a firm that pays you a W-2 wage. And then on the side, you've got some kind of entrepreneur activity going on where you don't have any W-2 employees. You qualify for a solo 401k, right? Or maybe you get 1099 income. You're a realtor. You have just some kind of entrepreneur activity. Then you do qualify for the solo 401k. And then you could take your 401k from your old job or your IRA that you're not too happy with, get it converted into the solo 401k. And because you're taking money from one retirement account and putting it into a different retirement account, which is the solo 401k, there's no taxable event in that equation. And then now you've got a lot more freedom and control where you're the captain of your own ship. You get to make the call.
Man, that's great. Man, interesting. So, I mean, are you seeing, especially the way the stock market is going recently, are you seeing a trend just within an uptick in business owners, people getting out of the 9-to-5? Are you seeing a higher need for this of seeing a more of a fallback outside of the stock market?
Yeah, for sure. Just because the stock market's not doing the best right now, so more and more people are open to having conversations about doing something different. And then, I think we're still seeing some of the residual effects of COVID, right? There's people that are kind of getting tired of working a 9-to-5 and being glued to a cubicle their whole, week, their whole month. And there's no kind of hybrid flexibility. So they're looking for other ways to maybe create some income for themselves and some kind of entrepreneur activity themselves. So definitely seeing a lot more people, take the step and have a part-time or a full-time business.
Man, that's awesome. And it's interesting that getting into this world myself, it's a fascinating way because there's just so much we don't know. And the more we know, the more we realize we don't know. So I appreciate you being kind of a guide for a lot of us small business owners and entrepreneurs trying to figure out this. And really, because at the end of the day, I think we all want more freedom, more margin in our life, more things to do what we want to do. Because it's like this life is short in itself.
Yeah.
So
sure.
Just kind of, Daniel, man, what's something you're looking forward to, excited about, just either in your business or just your life in general?
Man, I got a 50-mile run coming up.
Wow.
And, I'm doing that on October 22nd. So I'm excited. I'm nervous. And, the farthest I've ran is 41 miles. So just kind of a reminder for me and everyone else that your goals should be making you feel a little nervous, making your palms sweaty, because that means you're stretching yourself, right? You're, shooting for something that is stretching your potential. And I think we get caught up in, just not having goals that, can push us, because it's easy to just have. I think we're wired for complacency. We're wired to have the easy route, the least path of resistance, right? So just having those goals that, make you push a little harder, make you think a little bit bigger. I think those are important to have.
Absolutely. I did an adventure race a few years back, and then you realize you are more capable than what you think.
Amen.
Yeah, that's great. So what's a mindset you're going into this race? How do you train your mindset of thinking? Like you said, there's nerves. That's an extra 9 miles you've never experienced. So what's a mindset?
Just expecting pain, expecting difficulty, expecting moments of wanting to quit. And that's why I love running. I just started running in June of this year, right? We're doing this in October. So I'm about 4 months into running. And I've learned in my short time that there's a lot of parallels between running and business, running and life, right? How many times in business or in your personal life, you just feel like tapping out. You just feel like, let me just Netflix and chill for the weekend, and let me just zone out and forget about my problems. Or this business is too much. It's not for me. Maybe I'm not meant to be a business owner. I'm just too stressed out, right? Or I don't know if I can do it. You just start doubting yourself, and that happens on these big runs. So when you start to expect that things are going to be difficult, that things are going to be challenging, there's going to be pain along the way, it gets a little easier. Doesn't mean that it's completely gone and you're okay with it. It's still tough, but you just expect it. And then you realize when you get done with something excruciating, something that has a lot of pain and there's suffering along the way, you come out a stronger person. You come out a wiser person. You come out someone that, just has a little bit more experience, and you can't put a price tag on experience.
Yeah, that's great, man. And well, Daniel, I appreciate you coming on. Like you said, DanielBlue.me was a place people can find you, but what's some other way that my audience consume some of your content?
Yeah, on DanielBlue.me is I've got a podcast. It's called How Winners Win. And the theme there is to help people win in their financial life, their personal life, their entrepreneurial life. So, the podcast is on all the major platforms. Again, it's called How Winners Win. So if you like podcasts, which I'm sure you do, that's why you're listening to Cartwright. I know you'd love listening to How Winners Win. And then all my social media handles are on my website too. I post pretty frequent on Instagram and Facebook. So you can give me a follow there. And, I know you'll enjoy that.
Daniel, I appreciate you coming on, man. It was a blast just getting to talk with you.
Hey, Cartwright, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for listening to the Men Are Forged podcast. If you enjoyed this interview, I recommend going over to Men Are Forged YouTube page and subscribing. There's more great content, short clips, videos, even some full interviews of just more content about how we are shaping men into leaders. So you can go there to the Men Are Forged YouTube page and subscribe.